Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this session. It will be a very wonderful session. I promise to you, we have such a professional team here. We are speaking about exercises. Exercise makes the master, as you know. We will have one keynote speaker, we will have 4 panelists, and then we will have 1 commentator. Exciting combination, let's see how it works. I'm Christer Putin, I'm with the Arctic University of Norway, and been involved in this kind of line of business for some decades. We will have the honor to welcome Mr. Siim Kallas to have a short keynote speech. He's the municipal mayor of a county called Viimsi. Well, he also happened to be the vice president of the European Commission and Prime Minister of Estonia, foreign minister, financial minister, something like that. Yeah. So that is exactly how Europe should look like, you know, ruling from bottom up, facilitating from above, I would say. So, welcome, Siim, and take the floor. Say whatever you have on your heart.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for this opportunity to have some remarks at the 9th annual forum of the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region. Viimsi County, Viimsi municipality is an active participant in the HAZARD project and appreciates highly the potential of the cooperation in addressing various threats emerging from various economic activities. Viimsi County is of course, a remarkable county. When I moved in Viimsi in 1993, we had 8,000 inhabitants. Today you have 25,000, so it has grown 3 times. And this one is the most prosperous county. This is the most prestigious county. People like to live in Viimsi, and due to the, first of all, the environment, the living environment, which is basically already offered by nature. A lot of forest, seashore, fresh air, and other these pleasant aspects. And we have, on the other side, we have biggest cargo port of Tallinn, Muuga port on our territory. Muuga is a very big and influential port, and also increasing their services and wants to increase their services. And what can I say in very simple terms? We don't want this port. It is population of Viimsi who have elected us are clearly opposing the existence of the port at all. And that's the biggest challenge and biggest problem. So from one side, of course, we cooperate and we, as I said, we highly appreciate the possibilities to cooperate within the framework of HAZARD project, to cooperate with other municipalities and various organizations surrounding the Baltic Sea, and exchanging experience, obtaining information about lessons learned, and we have used this project to to have a legal analysis of all aspects of the sport. We have had information how to educate and to inform people about all aspects of this sport activities, and of course we have also put a lot of attention to the rescue and emergency services which have to act when something happens in the port. But actually, of course, this is all our obligation. So this is the obligation of local municipality to inform people, to have things under control in the port, to know what is going on, to have necessary information about the possible environmental hazards. The port is transit port for oil, for various chemical products, for fertilizers. So there is always a question. Population is very nervous about thinking about the possible risks, which something can happen, and then what will happen to our population, which is located next to this port. Of course, as I said, we have done everything we can, and we will continue to do it for our population, to inform them and to create some kind of bridge of trust between the port and the population. But in general, we are in a very controversial situation. We all know that sea transport is very environmentally friendly, and in Europe, and we worked together with Professor Ojala as well in European transport policy, we looked for various ways to promote and to facilitate sea transport and to take the burden or the tension away from especially for road transport, and to find ways how to combine ports. And you know that we have this trans-European network great master plan which puts big emphasis on the all modes of transport, and also these nodes where the ports can unite, can combine sea transport and land transport. And so it is a general strategic line. And now you go to the local people. And local people, of course, as I said, local people have very big difficulties to how to recognize this. We don't care. This is not our problem. Yes, of course, we understand that Estonia has economic interests, and the port is a very big contributor to GDP and all, and in future even more. But how to now to combine, and local municipality has responsibility to inform people and to also to be ready to address possible emergency situations. So to have necessary rescue rescue capacities ready, and special information. Okay, and the question is how to now to combine, how to create a mutual interest where the local people are interested as well, and like it's not only port. It's in other municipalities. In Estonia, there is a big debate about the possible new pulp plant, and we have debates about windmills and other these type of things. How to combine this with the local interests? But we have very clear interests as local municipality. We have, as I said, we have a rapidly growing population. We need more schools. We need our roads and streets are under the bigger and bigger burden, and need repair, need new investments. And is there any possibility that this type of big economic entities can contribute to the life, something to do something for people, local people. At this stage, the law and the decision-making framework doesn't provide very many possibilities, except that they pay also land fee, but this is 0.08% of our revenues in Viimsi, what they pay, so this is nothing. But they don't, they have no obligation. I actually don't complain about the bad cooperation between municipality and port. It is not bad. And they have done something, and they have recognized the necessity they have to inform and to also to have necessary technical capabilities to also to monitor what is going on in environmentally sensitive areas like air quality. But as a system, it is not satisfactory. It is not satisfactory. And we must think something like also financial contribution, or even more, how to have a message that if there is a necessity to or the idea to plan a new big enterprise, then it's also clearly can see that, okay, you can say that there will be a big GDP and there will be jobs and others, but we don't care. This is in our municipality, we don't care about these type of things. We anyway have the biggest salaries in Estonia, and it's mostly our population considers Viimsi as a best place for living, not for manufacturing, for instance. And it's the conference and the seminar here, your offered opportunity to deal with these issues, and I think it's a serious question how to also to clear to create these type of mechanisms which harmonize the interests of people and the economy. Otherwise, a certain moment we will, when economy is not providing necessary resources for our whatever social needs and infrastructure and schools, then we will be in troubles. Concerning the concrete hazard project and concrete work, it is as I said, Viimsi has benefited a lot from this cooperation within hazard project and cooperated also from the cooperation between other local municipalities and also this technical and organizational readiness and capability to cooperate. It is everywhere. It is high, and we have benefited a lot from this cooperation. And but it's of course a lot of possibilities to develop this cooperation, especially in terms also in terms of information and in terms of also technology, which can create trust and can alleviate the possible fears what exist amongst local population. But you know, it's because this is a big issue. Yes, we can discuss that port is very good and sea transport and shipping is very good in terms of environment, that it is linked to the ports. But it's not only the ports and sea shipping, but the question today, in today's Europe, including in Estonia, a local population can stop economic development projects, and this is bad. Of course, we must find common language and common interests. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Siim and Mr. Simkalas, and stay there for 1 minute more. I know that you have to run to your county council meeting. But it's really quite interesting to ask a couple of questions from a person who has been in political life on different levels. So if you have any questions now, and I think you are happy. You used to be a presidential candidate as well. You didn't win, but anyway. So you're used to tough questions. So anything. No questions. Then I will ask you. Coming from Brussels to a rather small Estonian county, dealing with politics. Do we have any problems there? Do you see any problems between Brussels and the local level?
Don't mystify thing Brussels. It's first of all everything which is decided and which comes from Brussels is in fact decided by member states together, and this is decided by us. So when there is a problem, this is a problem for government, country government, not local government. It is if country government, prime ministers X come out from the summit meeting and say that I don't know what are they deciding there. Come on, it is a blasphemy, and exactly what this happened to the British Prime Minister David Cameron, who exactly came out when everybody, for instance, was decided a very technical question about corrections in the payments. You know that the European budget is based on the national contributions, and contributions are calculated by certain economic indicators. Now, it's GDP and actual GNI. And this is, timely corrections are needed, and the correction was done, and it was found that UK must pay a little more, and this is one which is decided as consensus. It was decided as consensus, but Prime Minister came out and gave immediately a press conference and saying that what are they doing there? That's it. So this is Brussels. And but of course it's the eternal challenge answering to this question is that this Brussels or European Union is simply a terribly complicated entity, animal, which is based on the mostly consensus decisions of 28 nations. So that cannot be an easy one.
Thank you, Sim. It's not you, it's me. Okay. Now we let you go, and you made a great advertisement to Himsi County. If you haven't been there, so everyone will rush there.
Yeah, and have already many Finns living in Himsi.
Many Finns are living as well, so it's even better or worse, I don't know.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. All the best.
We can. Now we have the honor to invite to the scene the panelists. We have 4 panelists, as I promised, and then we have 1 commentator. So please come here and follow in order to make it easier to communicate, just follow the order of we have some kind of booklet here. So Torbjörn Lindström first, here. I will tell a little bit about everyone, and then Teemu Niemelä here. There are already 3 Finns on the scene. Okay, but then we get Else Tims here and Jonas. Westerberg. And then we have one special guest who is not in the program, is Mr. Arja Honarmand here, who is representing MSB. You know what is MSB? MSB is the Swedish Civil Contingency Agency. For some reason it's called MSB. Yeah, perhaps because of the Swedish name, which is also quite difficult name, by the way. What is Nina? What is MSB? Repeat that if you can. Okay. Okay. So sit down, please, ladies and gentlemen. And we are dealing here with exercise. We are dealing with policy area secure, or is it safety? Secure. Yeah, secure and safety. Yeah, both. Yeah, we are dealing with both safety and security, which is quite interesting. In most European languages, you do not make difference. I can tell you the difference. Secure is something that someone malicious person or group tries to hurt you, and safe is something that you do not fall down from the scene. We are dealing with that, and we are dealing with exercises. This is organized, hosted or funded or whatever by CBSS, which is Council of the Baltic Sea States. Very, very nice organization. I really love it, perhaps because I used to work there. But then we have MSB. I love MSB too. And very, very, we wouldn't have this kind of cooperation without MSB, really. They just have money and will. And then we have the Danish Maritime Authority, and then we have Finnish Transport Safety Agency. And these four organizations together, and we are kind of hosting this event. And we will make it so that I ask the four panelists to go to make their presentations. They have very short presentations, very short. So you will not be bored. And let's take them in a row. And then after the whole panelist row, we will give the word to Arja to a couple of comments, and then we open the floor to all of you. I try to keep you active. I try to think about any questions. There are no wrong questions in this. Think about some interesting questions and try to even challenge, perhaps, the speakers. Now we have here, who do we have first here? We have first here Torbjörn Lindström. Sounds like sweet, but it actually. Finländare. Yeah. Development manager of Southwest Finland Emergency Management, and he has something to tell about a project which is called Hazard, which also Sim Kallas mentioned. So I suppose that the county was involved, and I think you have the, or perhaps you do not have. I tell what he's done. He's done a lot. That much I don't read anyone. He is, well, he is the emerging business is your trouble. Yeah, no, trouble is your business. Or which way? Okay. Go ahead. Trouble is your business, like Raymond Chandra used to say. Okay, tell us everything about your project. Go there, and I suppose there will be some kind of yeah. Now it comes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning or good day, everybody. As said, my name is Torbjörn Lindström, and I'm a development manager, not in the emergency management. It's Southwest Finland Emergency Services which is the fire and rescue service or the fire brigade, if you want to. Representing the hazard project here now, this is a 3-year project co-funded by the Interreg Baltic Sea Region program. This is a project that is led by the University of Turku, and we also have the project director, Professor Ojala, here in the audience today. He's overall responsible for the whole project, and my fire brigade is responsible for the work package number 2, which is the large-scale exercises and communication in emergencies. The challenge defined for this project is that ports, terminals and storage facilities often are located close to residential areas and therefore potentially exposing a large number of people to the consequences of the accidents. This hazard project deals with these concerns by bringing together fire and rescue services, other authorities such as ports and logistic operators, and of course the universities and knowledge partners. Moreover, we also have associated organizations supporting the project, such as, for example, the Federation of European Fire Officers Association, the FEU. So today we will talk about the exercises, not about the project as a whole, but the project wants to enable better preparedness and coordination and communication and more efficient actions to reduce damages and loss of life in emergencies. And in order to achieve these goals of the project, which is mitigating the effects of emergencies in major seaports in the Baltic Sea region, we have in this project 2 types of exercises. We have these so-called large-scale exercises, and then we have small-scale exercises. And there you can see pictures of the exercises already held or exercises to be. This project has still 3 exercises this year and will finish in spring next year. But a large-scale exercise in the hazard project is a 3-day exercise. It starts with a briefing and where all the participants and observers gather together and go through these scenarios and what is going to happen during the exercise day. And then the 3rd day is more a briefing or debriefing day where lessons learned is discussed among the work package consortium. There are usually several hundred participants in these exercises, and the scenarios differs from maritime accidents or accidents in the port area. Usually there is also some hazardous materials involved in the exercise. So there is participants from the fire and rescue services, of course, in these exercises, but also the cooperation between different authorities is a key element in our exercises, and of course all the other actors who are somehow involved in the port area. And of course, the cross-border cooperation we have from not only from the partner or project partners, but also other people can be invited to observe the exercises. Exercises are also always arranged and conducted by the local fire service. We have 3 fire services represented in this project. It's Hamburg in Germany, Klaipėda, Lithuania, and then Turku from Finland. Some challenges concerning the exercises when we have discussed among the work package 2 consortium, then it's this how to work in this international environment, because we have different education, training. We have, although fire and rescue service is more or less the same in the whole world, but still there is some challenges in this when you have to work together. There's cultural differences, and of course we can have small language barriers also. Then we have different ways of how to cooperate or to work together, cross-sectoral working with the other authorities responsible for taking part in exercises and in accidents. The communication is part of this also. We can divide the communication thing in several sectors, if you want to say it. So we have communication before, during, and after exercise or crisis or accident. But we also have this communication between or from authorities to the public, from public to the authorities, and communication between the authorities. And therefore we also have had a few communication seminars in this project, one in Turku and one in Riga, and these have been very fruitful seminars, because we can gather all different actors together and then try to figure out a common understanding for how to communicate. Challenges more assess objectively the knowledge gained, and of course the current European Union and national regulation on emergency preparedness. And this is something that it's not only, of course, in this project, but is usually in exercises that we have in the fire brigades, is that the dissemination of the results and the implementation of things or lessons learned. These are challenges. What we have learned so far, this kind of exercises and projects gives you a good opportunity to benchmark and learn from each other different techniques and methods, and of course equipment, how you use it, operational procedures, and so on. And of course the networking opportunity, you get new contacts and friends, of course, and you have also outside the project you can keep in contact and touch. And also, of course, we are kind of used to arrange large-scale exercises, but of course we have improved the skills also in this field and identify barriers. And the last but not least, we have had very good cooperation also with the other projects, or between these projects that all represented here, the HAZARD, ChemSAR and DiveSmart. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I stop my presentation here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Torbjörn. It was a very good start. We come back to these questions. One thing that always comes up is communication. Everyone who has been married or is still married so knows that the communication is the key, you know? and it's where it fails usually. Also in exercises and in emergency. It was about large-scale exercises, and some of them were in the harbors. And before you go to lunch from here, so I would like you to remember that there is a real, well, exercise is never real. It's exercise is simulation, but and this is even a little bit smaller. It's a demonstration of an exercise in the harbor. Lot of big ships, 100 meters or something, and some divers, and I don't know if there is a helicopter or whatever, but it will be exciting, and my friend colleague Nina will at the end of this session tell when the bus is going there. So you are going there, and there it's kind of a show. Something terrible happens in the harbor, and then we will see how they deal with that. It's kind of an exercise simulation. Speaking about ships, here we have our man. We have Teemu Niemelä, who's an officer in Finnish Coast Guard, and I suppose that he is knowing very well what he is speaking about. That about when he's speaking about another kind of exercise project, which is exactly about what our, as far as I understand, what our exercise demonstration is about later in the afternoon. Teemu, please, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and ladies and gentlemen. Yes, my name is Teemu Niemelä from the Finnish Border Guard headquarters so far, working now in the Maritime Safety Unit there, in one of the world package leaders in this ChemSAR project. The headline of the project is not so simple as you see there. It's uniform operational plans and standard operational procedures to save human lives in maritime H&S incidents, so it's hazardous and noxious substance incident. But shortly what we are doing is that we are trying to find common ways for maritime rescuers to work together in international rescue operation in challenging environment. So in this case it probably can be a dangerous atmosphere caused by some leaked substance on board the vessel. So in my presentation I'm trying to give you an overview what we are trying to do, or what we are doing, and for who and why. First, a few words about the challenge. If you think about normal, traditional rescue operation, probably there's one vessel which have blackout, no propulsion or engine power, heavy listing. The crew is about to abandon the ship. So that's a That's the way it goes. Then the master of the vessel goes probably to maritime coordination, risk and coordination center. So there they figure what kind of assistance they can send to the area. If it's close to shore, it goes quite smoothly to have those rescue vessels and also helicopter on scene. And also the other vessels are easy to alert to approach the area. So that's what in this context I call normal, traditional rescue operation. But then the challenging one, there's no need any listing, no need to black out, no need anything like that. We have some kind of vessel, probably 30 crew members, 400 passengers. There's container on weather deck leaking some substance that evaporates rapidly. There's quite much vapor, and some of the crew members or passengers, they are already unconscious, caused by this leakage substance. And then we have problem. We don't know, in fact, what the substance is before we get information about the vessel or shipping company or some expert. There's no possibility to send the vessel nearby the area to rescue those persons. So we have to find out way how can we approach there if there's lots of gas or vapor nearby, or for example liquid. So there are many response manuals made by Helcom or Bonn Agreement or anything like that, but they are basically more to this response work, how we can collect substance or what have we do there, but not so many manuals or guidance how can we save human lives. So there was this identification of a need. There are no uniform procedures for rescuing persons from maritime hazardous and noxious substances incident. So that's our challenge. Then a few words about this, what we are doing in those operational procedures. When we are planning rescue operation, executing the rescue operation, when there's this dangerous atmosphere, or at least the threat of the dangerous atmosphere. So our point that we have to answer are time frame, information, coordination, and of course technical and financial functional resources, for example. So we are trying to answer those, how can we respond to those threats. So what we are doing, these plans and procedures, they are not to replace any part of existing rescue guidance or national or international rescue operation procedures, but they are more supplement to those. There are, at these days, there are no guidance how to deal with these issues. And what we have done so far, we have one operational plan and draft so far, of course, and 7 SOPs to cover those some critical issues. For example, the one of the slide, situational awareness, that's more like a guide to that we can get information, what's the substance, what are the equipment that we need, required equipment, and of course resources to respond to current situation. What kind of assistance we can send there. So basically we are improving capabilities for saving human lives. And the project, we have also exercises, and mainly they are during this project time that to ensure the applicability for the formulated procedures to test those procedures. So we can get feedback from the exercises. We had our tabletop exercise last summer. In autumn we had our simulator exercise, and September 13th we will have our live exercise. And these exercises are planned and executed that way that we can get feedback about the needs and gaps we have in these procedures. And then based on this evaluation, these SOPs will then be revised during the project before the national or international implementation phase. And also, this exercise will clarify the need of the special equipment or what other resources are needed for nationwide and international. So our lessons learned in this project so far is that through formulating, exercising, evaluating, and revising, we are developing procedures to save human lives in these hazardous and noxious substances incidents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Teemu, and here applies, of course, that friend in need is a friend indeed. So all these rescuers are the closest we can come to saving lives in difficult situations. You saw the big ship there, Coast Guard ship Turva. I think that is in the harbor now. They are doing something. Come there. Now we go further. We go to speaker number 3, Else Timms. Yep. And you work also at the Coast Guard.
Swedish Coast Guard.
Swedish Coast Guard. So please, you can tell something about your field and the project.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Else Timms and I work for the Swedish Coast Guard. I work with projects and external funding, and I also work in a project called the Dive Smart Baltic project. To begin with, I will though be speaking briefly about the Baltic Delta project, which is led by the Swedish Coast Guard. Unfortunately, my colleague, Ms. Therese Larsson, is not able to be here today, so I will quickly tell you about the Baltic Delta from notes that she has given me, and then I will move on to the Dive Smart Baltic project. The Baltic Delta project is one of the largest exercises in the world. The scenario, and this is the story time part of my presentation, is as follows. In windy conditions, a cargo ship that is carrying hazardous substances goes aground off the coast of Skåne and Blekinge, and that is the very southeast part of Sweden. The collision causes some chemical containers to fall aboard, and also there is a breach in the hull so that oil is moved into the water. Before long, there is quite a lot of oil in the surrounding waters, and due to harsh weather, the oil and the hazardous substances are moving in towards shore. And within 24 hours of the accident, some containers have reached the shore together with the oil, and there is still the emergency preparedness situation that you need to have preparedness for at sea. If I look at the major challenges, I'm going to have to look up at my own presentation to see where we are. There we are. One of the major challenges is that this exercise, which is going to be performed on the 27th to 30th of August, is a both sea and shore exercise. Previous exercises have mainly focused on exercising at sea, but this will also have the emergency preparedness organizations from shore involved. There are a lot of people and a lot of vessels, so that challenges are logistics. There is an observers program, which means that there has to be a way for observers to see both above and under the water and at the shoreline at the same time, which makes it more or less impossible to take them on a vessel and have them as usual observers. We have found a sort of solution that will look like this, and the exercise will be sent on a screen so that the observers will be able to see probably everything at the same time. Different actors and different rules depending on which country they come from also have caused challenges. And the lessons learned: prioritize the most important aspects when working with a project. Do not try and broaden the project, but have priorities and make them work really well. Maximum involvement of the partnership when writing the application is a benefit. In this case, we had a consultant who wrote the application together with MSB and the Coast Guard. Then we have several other partners, and of course you then have to bring them into the application, and it would have been better if they had been participating from the beginning. Project managers' mail address is there, and also the website of the Baltic Delta exercise. And now we will move on to the Dive Smart Baltic project, if that's okay. I'm going to talk about that as well, so you can move on.
Okay.
I'm ready. Then I will bring my colleague Jonas. He will continue the Dive Smart Baltic project.
Shall we take that right away and then we
Yes,
have
I
the
think it's
discussion
probably,
after?
as I'm standing here, I think that probably would be the most sensible way of continuing.
Okay.
Yep.
Then
I will start, he will continue.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Jonas.
Thank you.
She will start. She will
There we
start.
are.
Yeah.
There. This is then the project where I have my heart and soul, and my colleague Jonas is to my left there. He will continue speaking. He is the project manager, and I am the project coordinator. And the Dive Smart Baltic project is a project about saving people in air compartments that are trapped in vessels that have sunk. And as you see the picture of the Costa Concordia, this is a scenario which is what we are preparing for. We think it is the largest exercise in the world because one of the... Let's see where we are. We're having the film on as well. I will have to look up this way. Sorry about this.
Filmen är där.
Yes, the film is there, but I have to see my PowerPoint as well. This is why I asked if I should have my computer, if I was able to see it on the screen. If we look at the challenges of the Dive Smart Baltic project, the initial challenge when we started the project, and it started as a national project that was financed by MSB, the Swedish Civil Contingencies Agency, was that nothing had happened in this area. There were 4 major organizations that had divers, and they never cooperated. They more or less knew how many divers they could produce if there was a large-scale accident, but they had never trained together. So that the national project then moved into an international project, and the international project had more or less the same challenges. If we thought that Sweden had the sort of carte blanche, then more or less all the countries around the Baltic, with the exception of Finland, who was very well organized, had the various organizations with divers, but they had no contact and are still sort of struggling to find the contact with each other, because that's what the project is about. I think one of the lessons learned, if I look at the entire project, is more or less the same as the Baltic Delta project. You must never lose sight of the goal. You have to have the goal ahead of you, and that is a coordination and a cooperation of water divers. If there is a big accident in the Baltic Sea, we have to be able to get people there quickly. We have to keep people alive in the vessels. We have to get them out, and then we have to get them up to the surface and make sure that they are alive there as well. Jonas, would you like to continue?
Yes, can I go?
Shall I move on to the next picture for you?
Yeah, can do that.
There you go.
Okay. My name then is Jonas Westerberg. I work for the Swedish Navy and the Swedish Coast Guard as project manager of this Dive Smart Baltic project. And just to not confuse you more, both me and Elsa work in this project, but I'm more focusing on explaining how the exercises has helped us during this project to develop the methods that we need to develop in the diving community around the Baltic Sea today. It's like Elsa mentioned before, when we started this project, it was like an empty paper. The Costa Concordia, the tragic Costa Concordia accident set a new standard on the diving community around the world today, because it was the first time where you had to do search and rescue diving with different organizations together, work together in a very, very difficult rescue situation. And after this accident, there was an Italian naval officer traveling around Europe and explained the complexity in the rescue work of this accident. And when they came to Sweden, the Swedish Navy and the Swedish Coast Guard sat down and discussed, if this happens in Sweden or in the Baltic Sea, what capacities do we have? What methods do we have? How do we cooperate in this situation? What preparedness do we have? And that was the start of the Swedish national project that called Dive Smart. And that was the first time in Swedish history also that we started to collaborate between the Swedish Coast Guard, the Swedish Navy, and the fire department and the police, and together try to work together in this diving community. And very early in the project, me and Elsa travel around to the other countries because we don't have plans in Sweden, but for sure they will have this in Denmark or Germany or Poland or Latvia or Finland. When we came to the other countries, all of them said, no, we don't really know who to call if this happens in our country, except Finland. And the difference in Finland that we don't have in Sweden or the other countries was, I think it was 1990, if you can correct me right now, there was a vessel turning upside down in the northern part of Finland, and they were trying to rescue people out there, and they were searching for divers. And after that accident, the Finnish Home Office, I think you call them, directly pointed to Coast Guard, you need to organize and coordinate the diving rescue missions in your country. So they got, from the top down, direct order to organize the diving. And now they have really good plans and a preparedness if you need to organize the diving rescue situation. The Dive Smart Baltic then started as a collaboration project between 6 countries around the Baltic Sea. And in the exercise, we see that the exercises that we have is the biggest tool to create a much better preparedness than we have today. We have created 6 tabletop exercises with the same scenario. The scenario is very complex, and we're not going to explain all the scenario here, but we have tried the same scenario in all the countries with the different MRCCs, the rescue coordination centers in the countries, to see what kind of mobilization plans they have, and also the alarming processes that they have. And it's pretty funny, if you call them and ask them, what is the alarm? Yeah, we have control over this in all these countries, but when you do the exercise, we can see it's a big black hole. We really don't know who to call when this happens. They really don't know what kind of diving capacity that they have. So that was one of the main gaps. So what the exercises has helped the Dive Smart Baltic project mainly with is to find these big gaps. And the challenges that we have now in the project is to try to fill in these gaps. And one of them is the alarming process, because if we're going to try to rescue lives in the Baltic Sea, we don't have 24, 36 hours on our hands. We need to find a way to have a bigger emergency preparedness than we have today. We also have done, as you see, I think there's a movie running around behind us here. It was the first time also we had all these 6 countries in a practical collaborated exercise on the west coast of Sweden, where the main objective first was to develop methods and competences to do life rescue and diving in really complex, harsh environments, inside ship hulls, inside containers and things like this. And we really reached the objective with this exercise in the matter of the methods and competences gaining. But what I saw as a project manager was, what made me really happy was the collaboration that we saw between these countries, because it was the first time you had maybe a Finnish Coast Guard diver diving with a Swedish fire department with a Polish naval diver. And in the beginning of the exercise, everybody was like this. They were not talking to each other. And after a few days, when they worked together, they were high-fiving each other and everything. So you could really see that this is what's going to happen. If you have this big accident in the Baltic Sea today, you will have all these countries coming there, and they need to collaborate in a really good way. What we right now is planning is that we're going to, during what we're currently working with now in the DiveSmart Baltic project is, like I said before, to fill in these gaps. And in September, we're going to have one last big tabletop exercise where we're going to try and test this alarming process around the Baltic Sea. And it's going to be Estonia, we're going to simulate that the accident has happened here in Estonia, because they don't have divers in the amount that we have in other countries, and they will call for help to the other countries and see how the alarming process works. And then in November, we were going to be in Kotka, Finland, and do the final exercise where we're going to test all these methods that we developed during the project. The challenges that we have in the project, the main challenges that we had in the beginning was to find the right correct organizations in the different countries, because the diving in all these organizations, you have divers in the fire department, you have them in the Coast Guard, you have them in the Navy, you have them in the police, but they are so small organizations within their organizations, so it is very hard to find the right organizations to work with. Then we also had a big challenge to include all of them in the project and try to find, like we did in Sweden, that we tried to find a way to get these organizations and authorities to collaborate. To do that in all the other countries with different cultures has been a big hassle. But now we really reached there, and we have big collaboration platforms in all these countries now. We're also working really hard with what we call what I feel is the main challenge in this. I normally come from the private sector in my daily work. I worked many years as an offshore and inshore diver. And when I came in to work in the authority and organizations, I was surprised about the problems of taking a decision and move on with it. Really surprised. And I also feel that this project now, we've done this for 5 years now. There's been a lot of people involved, a lot of money spent for it, and we have a lot of really hungry divers out there who really would like to cooperate in a way. So what I feel is the main challenge now is to find the future management before the project ends. So it will not stop with a nice report, that we can really feel that we have a future collaborated platform or something that we can continue this work with. So we already in the project started to plan for exercises after the project ended to show all the decision makers that we will not stop with this. We will continue work with this, but it would be really nice to find a way of having a future management structure on place before the project ends. That's, I feel, is the main challenge for us. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Else and Jonas. I really like this, that we have a lot of hungry divers out there.
Yeah.
So, I didn't have a chance to introduce Jonas. So you are a hungry diver for more than 30 years. So. And to me, it looks I've been in this kind of Baltic Sea region project business for 25 years or something, and what strikes to me is that we used to be kind of a younger academicians and having some projects, and now we have the divers with us. So I really think that we have gone forward. We have gone forward from paper to action. Now we will have about 20 minutes for discussion before lunch, and I invited here first Arja to have some tentative comments, but come up with your own questions and comments as well.
Okay, I don't know. Do you guys hear me? I'll just stand there because everyone else did it. It'll be a bit weird if I don't, perhaps. Thank you. My name is Are Hunarmand. I do also come from MSB, which is Swedish Civil Contingencies Agency. For the last 5 years, I've been working at the European Commission, responsible for the Union Civil Protection Mechanism exercises. Basically, running the program that is responsible to oversee and provide funding and supervise for European exercises that just do this, resilience, increasing resilience, but not only European, but also international. So it is both civil protection, maritime related, and humanitarian. And it's been a privilege to do that because I have been able to be part of and supervise and you give contributions to, I think, more than 45 exercises, so-called large scale. But I would like to come back to the actual, because all of the presentation is very interesting because it coincides with a lot of thinking that is there, not only in this Baltic region, but also in Europe and beyond. And before going there, I would like to go back to the title itself, resilience. Exercise, tool, resilience. And if we do look up resilience from the Latin, 17th century, it's basically recoil, to leap back, to go back to what it was. Oxford's dictionary, the first use of resilience is for a baby, that a baby is more resilient than parents believe. But resilience, as in going back into the state you have been before, right? But not only going back, there is going back, which would be recovery, and that is through preparedness, but also withstanding, and that is preparedness. So we have to keep in mind, not only do we need exercises to do that, to ensure resilience, but also we need a prevention measure, not only preparedness. And I'm just going through a few comments thoughts that came up related to what was mentioned here, but also related to the experience, in a sense, I've had. And starting with the vice president, actually, of the commission that was here. Just so you know, that person has had a lot of insight. I can just say for my own self, being at the corner of the commission, being there, him being where he is, I really do like to voice again what he mentioned, that is actually us. Many times politicians use it as an excuse. They say, oh, look, the commission is doing something over there, we don't have power. But actually, it's the opposite. And now that I'm part of a member state, again, I can say that. Not from the commission, I can say that actually member states use it as an excuse to cover their own tracks, in a sense. They say things, they make things, and they make the commission do it, and the end. So that means also to develop the ability, the resilience, the exercise programs, preparedness, it's up to us. And the funding that is there from the commission, it's up to us how we want it. And the commission is very, very heard, listens to your voice. What I liked a lot, if I can go backwards, I liked a lot was, actually Baltic Delta was one of the exercises, one of the last ones I received, and thought it was a very lovely exercise for a few other reasons as well, because Baltic had a view where it connected with what you were mentioning. There is an exercise. There is an exercise project. And they have different tasks. They have their tools. So an exercise is a tool of an exercise project. And an exercise project is actually a tool for what you want to reach, which what you mentioned in the end, that we do not want it to end here. And within the commission, we are trying to, well, the commission is trying to, informally me, they're going more towards a never-ending kind of move forward, both looking at capacities, which were mentioned, specific capacities, but also capabilities, which are generic. So you would have capabilities in sense of, let's say, alarming, deployment or resilience planning, coordination. These are regardless of the specific you're looking at, the focus. But the capacity is very specific, as in this case, the divers. And we're trying to make sure that at least when it comes to the capabilities, they are never ending. We keep on looking at that. We make sure that recoil, re-leap is there. And therefore, there's another thing as well. Many of the times we just put out words there. We say resilience. A long time ago, we talked about contingencies. But we don't have always a benchmark. When is it resilient? When can we say we did it? How far do we have to go? That's also a thing I think we... Okay, there were more comments, and going back to... basically, I covered most of the things I was going to say, except it is important to understand why we use it. And the word tool is there, and I think that's beautiful. But it's a tool, exercise is a tool of a tool of a tool connected to the focus area we want to actually increase. And therefore, when we really look at it in that manner, size doesn't matter when it comes to exercises. I didn't stop that sentence. When it comes to exercise, it doesn't really matter. It is the complexity and the focus and how you use it afterwards which matters. And supposedly, it seems like if you see high fives, you have made well with the exercise. Now, that's a new one, and I will, I think, keep it with me. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to listen to you guys.
Thank you, Arja. Thank you, everyone. I will take immediately if someone wants to say something now. Anyone? Okay. Then I can start, and you can think about if there are some issues. So there are a lot of things I would like to comment, but I would like to comment on one thing first. Exercises is part of what is usually called preparedness. So you have a preparedness plan, and then you exercise in order to check whether validated, whether it functions. And we have from the so-called command and control, basically military system, the idea of standard operation procedures, what you touched about. And still we know that when the crisis hits, it's about improvisation. And sometimes these standard routines may be hindering us to see what is coming, because we just look at the book and cannot have the ability to really see what is the real situation. The situation awareness thing is like blurred by these standards. Could you comment on that?
Yes, sure. What we do in the ChemSAR project is that we are trying to make those operational plans and procedures, but they are not meant to be future in some kind of ChemSAR booklet. They are meant to be more the implement on the national and already existing rescue procedures. They are the part that's missing there. It's not meant to be that if you have some kind of HNS incident, you just take a ChemSAR booklet and try to read it. So you have to learn these and implement these procedures to your own national system. That's the idea behind it.
Thank you. Any comments on that? Yeah. Yeah.
We do know that exercises should be in these forms. When it comes to this complexity we are not looking at specific persons, people. We're even going sometimes beyond the teams. We're looking at inter-teams, inter-organizations. And there we have seen actually that because you mentioned that sometimes when the actual situation happens, we tend to perhaps use our common sense and just run for it and improvise rather than use SOPs. And within at least many of the SOPs that I've seen that have changed, and one big one would be the Commission's major Armageddon disaster response procedures called CCCA, which became IPCR, is that they understood that actually you just come as close as possible to what you would do in reality and not make a new thing. So the idea is also that these procedures, like you mentioned, should not be something which is, oh, now this happened, let's do something totally new that I have to open this book and do. But it should be part of a normal day-to-day, right? As a diver, I think you...
Yeah, I agree.
I'm just going to say should, otherwise, I have to go.
Okay, I don't see any hands up there. There is one.
I just have the question, and I think it's for all of you involved in projects. I think everyone can agree that the Costa Concordia was very tragic, and I guess when you went around to all the countries, as you explained, Jonas, everyone could agree on this part, but how has the willingness to participate in the projects been from the countrysides? Has there been an understanding to what you have wanting to reach, and have you been met with willingness and eagerness or more reluctance? As you said, it was arms crossed and then it was high fives. What have been your experiences, and is there something we could take with us for other projects? A way to break down the doors, and when you find the door, of course.
A general question, yeah.
That. Yeah. Can you hear me? Is it on?
Yeah.
Good. When we started creating the partnership of the Dive Smart Baltic project, we had the ambition of getting all the countries around the Baltic Sea involved. And the call finalized in the middle of the summer. So we did not anticipate that some people in the Baltic states, for instance, they go on holiday quite early. It took a long time to get everyone on board. And the core partnership, which is the Interreg finance part of the project, there are five partners there. We had Denmark, for instance, which were a partner, but then were not permitted to take part in an EU finance project because it was the Royal Naval, what was it called? The Danish, Jonas, do you have the name of the Danish Maritime?
Or maybe the Danes.
Royal Danish Navy, the
Yeah,
Royal Danish Navy.
The Navy was not...
Anyway, the Navy could not participate in external finance projects, but they wrote a letter of intent and they have participated in any case, but it's important to sort of keep them aboard, give them information, and make sure that they feel as welcome as the other projects. We had problems finding participants in the Baltic states for the deadline that was in the middle of the summer. Then we applied for money from the Swedish Institute, and we have got them aboard. So you must never give up. You always have to have the final goal that you want everyone in this project that is an EU member around the Baltic Sea. And now we have contacts in all countries, even in Estonia, which has actually been one of the most difficult countries to reach because the lack of divers in a national force. We have to look at the police force there. But we're there, and that's the sort of best way of having an impact and finding a future, and not just a product you put into the bookshelf.
I would like to add one thing more to it. It's when we started the project, it was so lack of knowledge about the diving community in all the countries. So it was very difficult for the different organizations to understand if they were allowed to participate, or if it was the Navy in this country who decided everything, or was it the police, or was it the... And then there are so different cultures and different rules and regulations that you have in a lot of countries. Like one that maybe will surprise you all a little bit is in the Baltic states down there, the fire department are not allowed to dive in the sea. You know what I mean? They are allowed to dive in the lakes, but not in the sea. So when we have done the tabletop exercise, we have seen that the discussion has started in the different countries to change the rules. So that I feel a little bit proud in the project that we can make these effects. So that has been, to answer your question, to get the right organizations was very difficult in the beginning, I think, in the project. But now it feels like we are on the right track with that too.
Yeah, and I also think that even if you don't get them into the first application, if you have a good idea, you will always find money for them to participate. I'm absolutely certain.
That's a good rule. Then we have Professor.
Thank you for the opportunity to take the floor here. Lauri Ojala is my name. I'm a professor of logistics at the University of Turku and also the project director of one of these three projects, Hazard. What I would like to say after hearing your presentations, all of you, is actually that it seems that the learning curve has been particularly steep in all of the three projects in slightly different sectors dealing broadly with the maritime safety security type of issues. But what I would like to specifically underline that none of these three projects would have actually been possible without this transnational funding through the Interreg. It would not have been really possible to set up these consortia and these project groups and perform these joint activities, be they exercises or otherwise. So I think this is, even though the mission is not totally accomplished, there's still a lot to be learned and a lot to be developed further and to be implemented for sure. But at least this has been, from my angle at least, and having heard more from your two other projects as well, seems to be a rather good way of spending this money after all.
Thank you. And we know that there is this Mission Impossible third already somewhere there, and I suppose there will be a fourth as well if the Hollywood star will still going to do that. We have room for one more question, no comment. From the audience or from you, anyone? Use the opportunity because I take it fast if you don't know.
I can comment on your question if it was a question that the Interreg financing from our point of view is necessary, and so is the other financing, of course, that we have been given in the Dive Smart Baltic project. But I also see that one of the great benefits is that you put up a long-term development plan and it's quite detailed. And there is a flexibility in it. But I must say, apart from the financing, the detail and the long-term plan that you can adjust, of course, is a really good thing to have when you start, because you know the goal and you know you're going to get there.
Have a goal, know how to get there. I think these are good words to stop this discussion. I will very much thank you all the panelists and come to talk to them in person. And then I would like to stop my part here, but I would like to ask Nina to come up here. Nina from the Council of the Baltic Sea States, and you tell about the exercise demonstration and where we find the bus.